What if I told you one of the biggest additions to this Nebraska football team? Son of a Liberian politician.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, gang, DP here. Locked On Huskers, thank you for making Locked On Huskers the first watch and listen each and every single day. Greatly appreciate it. I want to thank the folks from FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. How about that? The app is easy to use. It's simple to use as we headed in baseball season and Final Four this weekend. I jumped on the website just to poke around a little bit, little UFC, a little baseball, and a little Final Four action. FanDuel.com/lockedon for more details, perks, and benefits all over the place. Real simple stuff. Get to it. One, thank you in advance for subscribing. The numbers are going up. So if you haven't, click the button, subscribe, get this content sent to you every single day. You don't have to worry about it. A couple of things that will set the seed. We'll plant the seeds for this particular episode. We'll talk about some players on this roster and then break down a little of some of the code word coach speak that was going on today from Coach Knighton. But in the tease, as I said, what if I told you one of the additions to this Nebraska roster is the son of a Liberian politician, a senator, as a matter of fact, Liberian senator. And I found out his real name, not the name that he's going by, but his actual name. Mikhail Sherman, MJ Sherman, Ed Setter, linebacker, special teams ace, the transfer in from Georgia. Listen, chef's kiss to hear that young man speak today about who he is and where he's from and why he's here. And the backtrack is that as a four-star athlete, having choices, top 35 recruit in the country, top 35. Whoa, that's pretty big. That's some deep water you're in. And to go to the University of Georgia and be on the teams, on the rosters, making plays and often winning special teams player of the week for a Georgia team that won back-to-back. And look, that's not easy to do. But the know-how, the knowledge that he's accumulated of what the process should look like, what it should sound like, what the demands of the leadership for those groups is going to be, how the practices should be set up, what the preparation is, what the nourishment should be, how to deal with friction within the roster, all of those things. And he now has full hand knowledge in full of all of the things that can tell you where success comes from, how it happens at the highest level of collegiate football. And then he was asked, why Nebraska? If you've got two chips, like you've got two chips, you got two rings, and you've played with just two hands full of first rounders and second rounders, all conference players, why Nebraska? And I love that he was not definitive in what he said, other than he has faith in Matt Rule. That when asked what all of this is about, he said, well, I'm trying to create generational wealth for my family. And he's proud of his family, and he loves his family. But that generational thing, I'm not sure I've ever heard a player actually say that. And if you can, help me out and let me know who they are. But I don't ever recall a player saying, I chose Nebraska because they're going to help me set up generational wealth for my family. Mind blowing. Because it takes a certain vision, a depth of person to say that I've got a long-term plan that I'm going to hold myself accountable to, and I'll do whatever it takes to do that. To achieve that, to get that, I've got to do it. I'm not relying on anybody else to do it. I want this responsibility. I'm going to do it. And I'm choosing University of Nebraska-Lincoln to help me with those things. When he could have gone anywhere in the country. And he spoke to Matt Rule. And Matt Rule is the reason why I chose Nebraska. And Matt Rule is the person that I have faith in and the belief in, that he's going to help me achieve the goals and missions and things that I've put in front of me. Well, that's pretty strong. That's pretty strong. And for a four-star athlete, and again, this is a guy that who's had success at the collegiate level, at the highest collegiate level, on the best teams of the last 2 years. And choosing Nebraska, and he started to settle in and identify what's going to be required to make this the Nebraska program that it desires to be. And let me tell you, he's got the shoulders for it. He's got the back for it, for the heavy lifting and for the responsibility of carrying this program and letting people get on his back and him leading the way. He's found another co-pilot and a bookend in Jamari Butler, and they've started to bond and blend over this. And when you start to see and imagine in your head the ideal edge rusher, as he's improved himself as a pass rusher, and then that he's elevated himself as an actual outside linebacker and accepted responsibility, because it's easy to come to say, look, I'm a pass rusher and that's what I do and that's what I'll focus on, and whatever else happens the rest of the time, I'm okay with. No, he wants to be the best linebacker on this team, outside linebacker on this team. He wants to be the best edge rusher on this team. He wants to be the best boundary setter on this team. And in order for this team to have any of the level of success that fans want and the legends themselves aspire to, MJ Sherman is absolutely required to play at his highest level and to change the way business is handled at the University of Nebraska within the football program. Every program needs a guy that sets the tone, sets the standard, holds people accountable, and sets his dreams on high. MJ Sherman might just be that guy. And it's good to know. So tune in and lock in on MJ Sherman and his journey over the next few months. We'll go to break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the other guys who are making an impact and making some noise during this spring session. We'll be right back. Hey, gang, welcome back to Locked On Huskers. Again, thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. Greatly appreciate it. Your second watch, your second listen should be Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown. Again, Final Four, men's and women's. And those are deep water. If you're going to go into the curiosity pool when it comes to what's actually going on, what's happening with these teams, what's happening with these players, who are the players that we should pay attention to, who are the coaches, and what do they like to do? Well, you've got two games on Saturday with the men, two with the women on Friday, and then those finals on Sunday and Monday. Get yourself some information. Do that. Go to Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown. Let them give you the information you need as you head into this week's games. You can find it on YouTube or however you consume your podcast. We were talking about MJ Sherman, but there are other players who are making themselves known and factors in the spring practice. And over the course of several days, no matter which corner of practice you went to, what you would hear coaches say is play loud. Play loud. And that is almost as much a philosophy as it is a demand and a standard that being physical requires you to be explosive and to beat people up. Tackling drills, even on special teams, physical, hands-on, pads clacking. You want to hear that. Being purposefully physical, and you being the impact, be the hammer, not the nail. These are the sort of things that are being said. But play loud. Let your play be very loud. Let it make a statement. And one of those players who's played loud is a guy that most Husker fans are very familiar with, but when it comes to his position or positions, there are other names that come into the discussion for good and bad reasons. But Rahmir Johnson has been here, and he's been steady, and he's been consistent, and he's been quiet. He's been quiet. He's not going to be in the press giving sound bites. He's not going to be the rah-rah guy out at practice. But what he's always been is productive. What he's always been is consistent. What he's always been is competent. And he's been a great teammate. There have been 3 different coaching conglomerates in the last 12 months. And each one has asked different things of Rahmir Johnson. Each and every single one has different expectations and different demands from Rahmir Johnson. And what you've never heard any of those coaches say is that he said no. Rahmir Johnson has always accepted the mission. He's always accepted the assignment. And he always shows up and puts on the work. Kick return, punt return, get back there. I got you, coach. Need you to tote the mail. Be physical. Take some hits. Got you, coach. Need you to learn the outside positions just in case we have a need. Got you, coach. Understood. Need you to learn the pass pros for several positions. You need all the verbiage. Got you, coach. Work on your route running. We're going to need you. Sometimes we're going to put you on the slot. Got you. Sometimes we're going to put you on the edge. Got you, coach. But what he's done is when other folks got injured, right? When other folks slacked off, Rahmir Johnson has been there. And he's been consistent, and he is always there to work at standard. And a lot of what they talk about, it's very – think about it, that under the Frost regime, under the Joseph regime, and now under Matt Rule, you've got to learn the way coaches want to communicate with you and the things that they want, how they want to run things, what their expectations are for how different positions are going to be played. And he's got to do film study, not for just running back, but also in the passing game. And at 3 positions in the passing game. He's got to know the verbiage. If he's playing the slot, he's got to be able to communicate to the outside receiver. He's got to be able to communicate to a tight end inside or an offensive tackle who's on the edge. He's got to understand the cadence of whoever's playing quarterback, and we can name 3 that he's had to play with. So that's always changed. It's a different voice in the locker room, a different voice in the huddle, and a different voice trying to audible out in front of 90,000 people at Memorial Stadium. But through it all, Rahmir Johnson has been consistent. He's been steady, and he has been Division I level. And once again, as they go through the spring, with all the film study that's required to learn a new system and new verbiage and all this stuff in play, Rahmir Johnson maintains, and he's still an option, a viable option in a running back competition. It's going to be interesting. He'll be a part of the story that is told when it comes to this Nebraska offense. That's just my gut. There are a couple of more players I want to talk about through the course of this. And, let me say this about Turner Corcoran. He's got his skin game is nice because the skin game is thick. Because he's taken so much heat and so much flack. We've watched him transition from a baby lineman to a veteran. And no matter what Coach Raiola throws at him, he has the tools. Physically, Turner Corcoran checks all the boxes. For whatever you think about the execution over a couple of years, from a physical standpoint, he's done the work. He's changed his body. He's gotten stronger. He's gotten bigger. He's gotten faster. He's gotten a little more ornery, quite frankly. But he got to share some thoughts this week, and I want to go over them with you. That Turner Corcoran is aware. He is absolutely aware of everything that's going on around him at every position that he could be asked to play. And that's pretty good. But we'll go a little bit more in detail on Mr. Corcoran when we come back. Locked On Huskers. We'll be right back. Hey, gang. Welcome back. Final segment of this episode of the Locked On Huskers podcast. Again, thank you for making Locked On, the Locked On Huskers podcast, your first watch and listen to each and every day. We're talking about the big man, big 6'9", all of them, that he's moved all up and down that offensive line under different offensive line coaches, under different offensive coordinators, under the cadence and leadership of different quarterbacks, with a whole stable of different running backs who run back behind. And listen, you don't hear him making excuses. You don't hear him barking at others or blaming others. He's carried all of this firmly on those massive shoulders of his. And he's figured out something, because when you watch him practice now, today, when you watch him, there is a comfort in, he knows that it's important, but he doesn't feel frazzled by it. There are times watching Corcoran last year where the game may have been moving too fast, or emotionally he wasn't in control. But what appears to be happening this year, and I know it's spring and you haven't had to face anybody that's all Big Ten like he's going to have to do. But he's discussed, you know what? If it's required, if necessary, I'm ready to play center. I'll do that. If that's what coach needs for me to do, that's what I'll do. Needs me to play left guard? Gotcha. Need me to play right guard? I got you. You need me to start at either tackle or be a reserve at the tackle position? I got you. To feel comfortable and to hear players talk about that things are fun. Practices are fun. And that they're still getting work and that they're still getting better. Another name to pay attention on April 22nd, because he's going to line up at several positions, I would imagine. And then as you head into summer camp, we'll talk about Turner Corcoran, because if Turner Corcoran is a starter, it's a statement. If he's not, it's a statement. He was proud to talk and share his time and talk about new addition Ben Scott and what he brings to the Huskers. He spoke in glowing terms about the return of Nori and what Nori does on this offensive line, what it allows the coaching staff to do. Having that steadfast, steady, consistent force next to center is pretty important. Looking forward to the return of Teddy Prohaska and what he can be when healthy, if healthy, in this football season. And then with Ethan Piper, and you understand that with Bryce Benhart, that you've got some guys that are familiar and comfortable. And Lutovsky is improving, and they feel comfortable that if he's a starter, you know what you're getting. But they have some numbers, and they'll get better. My question would be, as you watch this, how will they line up? Who will start? And can they stay healthy? Because if they can, it's one thing off the list, one box checked, and they'll tell you what that running game and passing game are going to be like. Casey Thompson, Jeff Sims, no matter who's a quarterback, Gabe Irvin, Rahmir Johnson, whoever, AJ Allen, whoever's at running back. These receivers, Marcus Washington, Billy Kemp, Fleeks. It doesn't. If those big boys don't get it together, and if Turner Corcoran is not making impact, it's a different type of story we're going to tell about this Husker team. But pay attention. That's what spring practice is for. We'll get more answers along the way, and we'll share them with you here on Locked On Huskers. Your first watch and listen each and every single day. Your second should be Locked On College Basketball. Isaac and Andy will take you through and give you all the insight that you need, anything you want to know. Again, simplicity. Be informed. Be informed. Be informed. Locked On College Basketball. You can find it on YouTube or however you consume your podcast. We'll close with the 3 words we love so much. Go Big Red.